This is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Friday. This is the Woo Report. The Woo Report. Episode 227, titled Devils Players Entering a Contract Year in 2022-23. I'm your host, Sam Woo. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, Twitch. Also on the new Twitter Space on the Let's Go Devils Network, as I'm coming live from the Primetime Radio Studios in the bunker somewhere in beautiful New Jersey. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. So, the topic today that I chose, thinking, who's on a contract year? And, well, here are my thoughts. What's a contract year? Well, in the NHL, it could be one more year till unrestricted free agency. That's a true contract year where you can prove yourself. You could prove yourself to get a bigger contract, either with the New Jersey Devils or with other teams. You could be like what Jesper Bratt is on a one-year deal and then be a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. That could be a contract year, but not a true contract year. And there are several players on the New Jersey Devils in the upcoming season will be entering in a contract year. Now, currently, according to capfriendly.com, the Devils are about $74,000 under the cap. Wow. When was the last time we ever said that the Devils are right at the cap ceiling? For previous years, it was always about the Devils being at the cap floor. Could we even get to the floor? But the Devils are right now, currently, about $74,000, $73,000 away from hitting their cap space. After Miles Wood was signed to a one-year deal, Miles Wood, we talked about last night, the deal worth about $3.2 million. Miles Wood is in a contract year, coming off of an injury, looking to prove himself. We talked about it yesterday that he was kind of like the heart and soul type player that had the intangibles that doesn't show up on the stat sheet or on paper, but a good guy in the locker room, plays with a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a craziness. It was hard to evaluate what to pay Miles Wood this year after he sat out most of last year. And both parties came to $3.2 million. And we'll start adding some of these numbers up, and I'm going to make a point towards the end of the podcast. But that's just Miles Wood. Also, Andreas Johnson is also entering in a contract year. Andreas Johnson, also known as Andre Johnson, on this fine programming called the Let's Go Devils podcast, inside joke, of course, has a cap hit of $3.4 million. Remember, Andreas Johnson came via trade from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs looking for some salary cap relief. His salary cap number is bigger because I guess he did get a signing bonus, so that's his AAV. But in actual dollars and cents paid to him this year, I believe it's $2.5 million, which makes him possibly trade bait if Tom Fitzgerald, the Devils GM, wants to get some more cap space. And another team would be incentivized that's trying to get to the cap floor. Okay, we'll take his bigger cap hit, knowing that we really don't have to pay him as much because he's already received that money early on in his contract. A front-loaded deal, I would assume. Tomas Tatar signed a 2-year deal last season. Also going to be an unrestricted free agent. $4.5 million. Would Tomas Tatar live up to his contract and get another deal? Or would he be dealt at the trade deadline if the Devils don't improve offensively? We talked about Jesper Bratt, restricted free agent next year, having a cap hit of $5.45 million. Interesting. Very interesting deal. Jesper Bratt rewarded for his performance last season. Breakout year for him, 73 points. If he increases the point totals, will he get a bigger contract? But I think it's the intangibles that Bratt brings. He wants to be a leader on this team. He surely has proven that. Let's see. Also in a contract year, but with restrictions in terms of free agency. Going through the list, Eric Holla coming via trade from the Boston Bruins. Good player. Can play center, left wing. 2.375 cap hit. 31 years old. Looking to make his mark on the team. Looking for a contract next season. Also an unrestricted free agent as well. Let's see here. You got Yegor Sharangovich. 1 year left, restricted free agency. Sharangovich right now, cap hit of $2 million. That deal was signed, I believe, by Tom Fitzgerald last season. It was a 2-year deal after showing some promise in a COVID-shortened season. Chris says, listening at work, counting inventory. Thanks for the entertainment, Sam. You're welcome, Chris, on the Facebook Live. Also, Shane Van Sickle, bigger question, who isn't returning next year? And there's a reason why I'm going over these numbers. Mikey McLeod. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. I don't want to get into that conversation yet, but let's just assume $975,000 cap hit. He will be a restricted free agent after this upcoming season. First round pick in 2016, Mikey McLeod. Also, Jesper Boquist and Nathan Bastian as well. Contract years. Boquist just signed a week or two ago. $874,000 cap hit. Nathan Bastian, who I like because he brings the beef, $825,000. Did wonders on the power play last season, coming via Seattle Kraken, who took Nathan Bastian in the expansion draft, then released him and came back to the New Jersey Devils. And with Miles Wood and Nathan Bastian potentially playing together in the infamous BMW line, Or could you use both effectively on power play 1 and power play 2? Andrew Burnett would be the deciding factor on that, as he is the new associate head coach. So think about that, folks. A lot of players are kind of in that put up or shut up category. Show me something. And that's just the forwards. Obviously, Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Andre Palat are here long term. And you would think Dawson Mercer, who is in the midst of his entry-level contract, they should be safe for now. Or will be safe for now. Going on the defense, Dougie Hamilton is here for the next 6 years. John Marino, the next 5 years. Jonas Siegenthaler, the next 6 years. But let's talk about the big 2 unrestricted free agents come 2023. You've got Damon Severson, cap hit $4.166 million on defense. The 6'5" defenseman Ryan Graves, $3.166 million. Both are deserving of potentially a big payday, both entering in a contract year. That's going to be huge. And this is why it's huge. And this is why the Devils filling up the blue line pipeline is very important, because you could lose both players to free agency if they perform well or play exceptional on a contract year. Teams would pay a premium, including the Devils, for their services. Ryan Graves with the size, and Damon Severson being a veteran right-handed defenseman. And this is why you have Luke Hughes, Ethan Edwards, Seamus Casey, Simone Nemitz, who is in an entry-level contract, expected to compete for a spot on the opening night roster when the Devils take on the Philadelphia Flyers at Wells Fargo Center on October 13th. These are 2 decent defensemen entering their prime and entering a contract year. The goaltending, Vitek Vanacek just signed 3-year extension at $3.4 million cap hit. Mac Black, Mackenzie Blackwood, I would not count him out yet. He has 1 more year left on his contract. Cap hit of $2.8 million. I would not count him out yet. He has another year to prove himself, but he's going to have competition. He is going to get pushed. Definitely going to get pushed. And, of course, you still have Jonathan Bernier, who is on injured reserve, $4.125 million. Maybe the best thing that Bernier could do is not come back. Biggest contribution of the team. Hate to say it, but that hip injury is very serious, and you just never know about these things. Corey Schneider, Yanni Kolkinen, they have buyouts, so they got a little bit of a dead cap. And then the recapture penalty from Ilya Kovalchuk, again, minor, but does take up space. So these players are entering a contract year. Devils are at the cap ceiling. So why did I bring this up? Why did I bring this up? I'm going to ask you YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, hello Twitter Space. I see Sam, Andy, Kyle, Dave, Brad, and I believe that is Nate. Not sure. Can't really read the screen while I'm doing the podcast with Twitter Space. But why did I bring this up? Well, there's one thing that I've been very impressed with Tom Fitzgerald. Well, I haven't been impressed with the goaltending that he's gotten to complement Mac Black and Mackenzie Blackwood. But what I will say, though, is the money management, the cap management, the captologist, whoever is the captologist on the staff of the New Jersey Devils, because that's where they've got a very heavy analytic staff. I think they've managed their money very well. I love short-term deals. In my personal life and in my business life, I love short-term deals. Why? Because you have an out clause if things don't work out very quickly. And as the Devils are at the cap ceiling right now, you want to take a look at what next season would look like. Say if whatever Tom Fitzgerald did was so terrible, worst case scenario. The Devils suck again. They're in the lottery. None of the players that were on the contract year really panned out. And guess what? Now you've got salary cap space. Because some teams, they get trapped with so many albatross, deadweight contracts that even if they want to make changes, they really can't unless they really fork over assets like first overall picks or first round picks and second round picks to move players. And right now the Devils are not, even though they're up at the cap ceiling, if you look at it on paper, they still have flexibility even if they do lose some of these players to free agency, which most likely will happen. Someone's bound to go. Damon Severson, well, we'll see if he really wants to be here in New Jersey. Because if he performs well, I'm pretty sure Tom Fitzgerald will give him a nice, big, fat, long-term contract to stay in New Jersey. Ryan Graves, interesting about Ryan Graves, I think he's a great player. But there may be a chance where the Devils can't afford him, especially when they've got that pipeline built in. And that's why they got John Marino in the first place. John Marino, he's locked in at a very reasonable $4.4 million via trade for Ty Smith. Brendan Warner says, hey, Sam, happy Devils Friday from Seattle. Well, happy Devils Friday to you, Brendan. And say hello to my family in Seattle. Actually, you don't even know who they are, but you never know. You never know if you know my cousins. So that's a lot of cap space. And what if there is a top prized free unrestricted free agent which has been hyped up in 2023? Well, you're going to have a lot of cap space with a lot of these players coming off the books, like Andreas Johnson, Tomas Tatar. Between the both of them, that's almost $8 million in salary cap space right there. Jesper Bratt, I would think, would get another one-year deal or get a long-term deal, favorable, maybe with a hometown discount, but with his agent, not so sure about that. Miles Wood, if he walks, $3.2 million off the cap. So right now, adding that, you're about $11.2 million under the cap. Eric Howla, if he walks, $2.375 million. $14 million on the cap. And then you add in Damon Severson and Ryan Graves, and now you're about $19 million under the cap if they all walk, and if you don't want them anymore. So I like Tom Fitzgerald's strategy of a win-win contract where, okay, we'll pay you at a reasonable rate and give you a year to prove yourself if you want that big fat contract. We're not going to give it out for free. We're not stupid. We know who the franchise players are, the pillars, is what Tom Fitzgerald would say. Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, possibly Simone Nemitz, definitely Dougie Hamilton. He's on the books. So it should be interesting what Tom Fitzgerald does in the next offseason. But a lot of it, obviously, is based on what happens this season, how they perform. And some players, when they bet on themselves, it brings the best out of them. You betcha. It brings the best out of them. But some players that bet on themselves doesn't really work that well. Like Taylor Hall. Could you imagine his contract year was the Hart Trophy year? What he could have commanded in the open market for his services? He would have made a boatload. A boatload. And I'm talking a lot of money. A lot of just silly money coming back. But unfortunately for Taylor Hall, he was under Devil's control a couple years, then traded. Adam Larson trade for Taylor Hall, and then Taylor Hall, the assets that came back out of that deal to Arizona is looking pretty nicely for the New Jersey Devils. That Arizona pick turned out to be Dawson Mercer. Love it. You got Kevin Ball. You did have Christian Jaros for a little bit. That didn't pan out, but the pick that was flipped for Jonas Siegenthaler, very consistent, tough defenseman. Love it. The gift that keeps on giving. Nate Shar didn't really pan out. I hope he would have, but did have a good season with the Utica Comets, but then traded. Don't know why, but that's fine. But that was a pretty good deal they got out of Arizona. Because what they did with the picks and what they did with the players coming back, really, Tom Fitzgerald gets a tremendous amount of credit for that. Although I don't think he made that trade. I think Ray Shero was forced to. But the assets that came back, you got to give Tom Fitzgerald credit because he was the one that was making the final decisions and the picks that they were getting back. Why Earth says Fitz is crushing it this offseason. His trash goalie decisions really pissed me off the last couple of years, but he's making up for it now. Look, I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to make a prediction here. This is a gut feeling. There's no analytics to support this. I think the Devils are going to have a goalie problem, a very happy Devils goalie problem. I think this is going to bring out Mac Black. he should be well rested and recuperated from nursing all of his injuries and his issues going into training camp next month. Vitek Vanacek is going to try to prove to himself and the New Jersey Devils that he is the number one goaltender, and he's going to push Mac Black. And he's got some financial security to go along with the new bride, just recently married, and it looks like Vitek Vanacek is looking to do some damage in the Metropolitan Division. I think the Devils are going to have a happy problem here, going from no goaltender, or like I should say, no NHL-ready goaltender to possibly an above-average tandem. You may not agree with me. You may disagree with me. But let me tell you something. Mac Black has shown some flashes of brilliance prior to his injuries. Nate Milbank say, I heard your request to join the Twitter space today. Is today a good day to join? Yes, the Twitter space is up. Twitter space is up. Go to our Let's Go Devils podcast Twitter account at Let's Go Devils Pod. Look on the news feed. You should see it there. You can hit start listening. It is audio only. Yesterday, we're still trying to figure this thing out. I took a call. I don't know how to phrase it. I took a call from Brat Pack from Twitter, and he chimed in, and it was pretty cool. But I'm still trying to learn how this thing works because I'm still not sure how we're going to incorporate this for next season's podcast, especially on Devils After Dark, where, just like a traditional radio show, you would take in fan callers. Well, you got to screen them, and we're going to try to figure that out. But also, we want to get your opinions. So for now, if you want to chime in through Facebook Live or YouTube Live, I see all the comments, and even you could tweet at us at Let's Go Devils Pod on Twitter. You may do that. Tony P says, I got Captain Morgan in my 7-Eleven Slurpee. Tony P, I think you always have a Captain Morgan in your 7-Eleven Slurpee when you watch this fine programming called The Woo Report, because sometimes your comments are pretty good. Ramona Rice from Kentucky says, I think Devils is going to have a good season. Well, I think they're going to have a great season. I think they're going to have a wonderful season. Meow, meow. All right, so I'm going to look at this Twitter space because I'm seeing something. What does this button do? Did I screw something up? Okay, I'm just playing around. I still don't know how to use this thing, and I apologize, but I'm trying. I'm trying, folks. I see this. I see Nate. I see Nate. We're going to try this. Nate, I'm going to just send one little request because I know you. You've been screened. You've come to our live events. I'm going to request you, invite you to speak. And if you just raise your hand and unmute your mic, then I'll let you talk to me for about a couple minutes because I want to keep practicing this Twitter space because it's kind of cool because we get to literally talk to you while on live air. And Nate, if you accept it, I could get you on, but I'm waiting for that. But as we're waiting for Nate to figure things out, because this Twitter space is brand new, so the Devils have flexibility even for 2023. One of the things that was a beauty this past offseason, although it's still going on with Tom Fitzgerald, was even when he lost out on Goudreau, after he lost out on Goudreau and lost out on Tkachuk, he was business as usual. The Devils are looking like a promising team right now. They spent all the way to the cap, folks. What did they add on? They added on John Marino minus Ty Smith, who a lot of fans complained about last season. quite a disappointment. I think Nate is ready to go. Let me finish up. Eric Howla via trade with Pavel Zacha. John Marino, again, taking up that cap space. And Andre Palat. Palat cost a lot of money. So basically, you got Palat and Marino for that cap space that would have gone to Johnny Gaudreau or Kachuk, but that would have been long term. So again, it's all about the cap space. I'm going to go to Nate. Nate, unmute yourself and say hello. I see you. I see you're set up. Turn your mic on. Are you there, Nate? He's not. He's having technical difficulties. See it?
Here it is. I got it. Okay. I'm new to this thing, too.
See, it's not that easy to do a podcast, is it? I mean, there's a lot of technical challenges, especially when you go solo.
Well, this is my first time doing one of these Twitter Spaces. I actually do a podcast myself in my spare time.
Oh, can you? Hey, why don't you use the platform to plug, Nate?
I kind of feel awkward doing this due to its subject matter, but I am the host of the Otaku Nate Show, the anime podcast where we talk about anime that we want to talk about. I have been a fan of Japanese animation for quite some time, and that podcast is just me sharing my passion with the world of anime that I think are worth talking about.
Okay. So, Nate, you've told me that you listen to our podcast on your commute. You're listening to the podcast now. What are your thoughts of this past offseason?
I called in specifically just so that I can rant about all the people who say fire Fitzy because, we missed out on Johnny Hockey, Matthew Tkachuk, Alex DeBrincat, etc. Whenever you have a political debate or something, and hang on one second. Sorry about that. When your opponent says something is so bad, a typical response should be, compared to what? And to all of you people who say that Fitzy is so bad, well, who would you rather have? Peter Chiarelli, Chuck Fletcher, Stan Bowman, Jim Benning? I'm trying to think of Mike Milbury. I think Fitz has done a fantastic job because so many people are so used to the Devils with their long-term success. Because I came in around 98. One of my first memories is going to a Devils-Rangers game in second grade, and my father teach me all the names. We had success for so long that we don't know what a rebuild is like or how it goes about. And when after Ilya Kovalchuk stabbed us in the back in 2013, I believe it was.
Yes.
That should have been a signal for the organization to just blow it all up and start over. Yet Lou Lamoriello still thought that he could compete with what he had, and so he went out and signed all of these over-the-hill free agents. You guys remember Ryan Clough, Michael Ryder, Martin Havlat?
Yep.
So if there's one thing I can say, as much as I was saddened by the firing of Lou, it needed to be done, especially with his awful...
Ooh. I think we lost you there, Nate. We lost Nate there. But he makes a great point. Because I've said, look, I like Corey Schneider. I like him as a player. I like him as a goaltender, even his play back then. But I thought it was an inappropriate time to bring Corey Schneider to the New Jersey Devils when you had a star like Martin Brodeur that's playing out the rest of his career. I would have just let Brodeur be Brodeur, take the lumps, take that nice draft lottery pick standing and the perks that came with it, especially when Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews were coming up in the 2015-2016 draft. But instead, You bring in a stud like Corey Schneider at that time with a Kovalchuk stabbing us on the back is what Nate said. And then, who do you pick in 2015? Pavel Zacha. Who do you, I guess in 2014, I think was it 2014? I don't remember. 2015 was Pavel Zacha. 2016 was Mikey McLeod. First overall pick, you picked Nico Hischier. Thank goodness you didn't pick Nolan Patrick. 2018, Ty Smith, now traded. Basically, is John Marino at this point. 2019, another first overall pick. Should be a no-brainer, Jack Hughes. Good pick. But, missing out on the sweepstakes of Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid in 2015. Because what Schneider did was he kind of really stole a lot of games when the Devils really had no business winning back in those days. And then by the time they had a pretty good team in 2017, 2018, for that 1 year, the Hart Trophy year of Taylor Hall, which I always thought was fool's gold, it was actually Keith Kincaid that saved the day, that went on a hot streak going into the playoffs, only to be eliminated in 5 games by the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's very interesting. But Nate, thank you. We'll work on these technical difficulties. I'm still learning about Twitter Space, so we're going to try. It's going to be a process. Oh, I don't think Devils fans want to hear that word, process. Ramona Rice says, "What if he didn't do nothing, Sam?" Talking about Fitz. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm assuming, what if he didn't? Explain yourself, Ramona. Brendan says, time will tell what happens with the team. I pray Jack and Nico are both healthy this season. Yeah, you need Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes to be healthy. You need Dawson Mercer not to get in the sophomore slump. But I don't think Dawson Mercer will. I think he's going to progress. Like the attitude of the kid. He has a little bit of an edge to him. Fabian Zetterlund. You've got some edgy players in Fabian Zetterlund. If Miles Wood will remain healthy and get back up to speed, and Nathan Bastian, Eric Halla, a little bit of Palat, but you got some attitude on this team. And we've always talked about the identity of the New Jersey Devils. And right now, we've got players entering in a contract year. And I think we're going to see the best. Well, at least we hope so. Okay, I'm reading Ramona's Rice. Sorry, Ramona. You know what? I'm actually brain dead. I'm kind of tired right now. So anyway, like you said, what if he didn't do anything? Oh, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Yep. So want to thank all those tuning in on a Friday afternoon. You know, this is an early edition of the Woo Report. Normally we do it at 9 p.m. Eastern or whenever I get home. But there's a New York Mets game tonight, and I kind of want to watch the whole game. I've only been watching highlights. I decided, I deserve, a little bit of night off. So I'll do it early. But seriously, I want to thank all those participating, all those on the Twitter Space, Twitter Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com. In the search, Let's Go Devils Podcast. You'll find our channel. It's called Let's Go Devils. Click on it. Subscribe. Facebook. You can like our Facebook page. Follow us on Facebook at Let's Go Devils Podcast. On Twitter at Let's Go Devils Pod. You can follow us there. Set your alerts. We do this podcast every day. Get your Devil's fix. Dropping the podcast at midnight for your Saturday commute, for those that are working, for your Saturday drive. You can download us anytime at Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get our podcasts. Spotify, iHeart app, Amazon Music Prime, Amazon. You name it. We're there. Brendan says, thank you for everything, Sam. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Brendan, for being a loyal follower. Thank you. Big things happening on the podcast for season 6. Also, our 5th year anniversary of our maiden voyage of the Let's Go Devils podcast, when Beer Baron, Shorts Guy, and I got together and did season 1, episode 1. Boy, was that a disaster. But not one of us thought that it would turn into a top 20 podcast in Apple Podcasts in all of hockey in the United States. None of us would have ever thought that. Well, you have a happy Devil's Friday, folks. But if you're listening tomorrow, have a happy Devil's Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Don't you worry, there's going to be more podcasts out there. Also, I had lunch with organist Pete Canarosi, the organist for the New Jersey Devils. You know what he told me? It's going to be exciting this upcoming season. Just watch. Okay, we'll be entertained. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, everybody. Till next time, this is the Woo Report. Let's go, Devils.